John Stockton and Jeff Hornacek in the backcourt. Karl Malone up front with Greg Foster and Chris Morris making his first start of the year. For Vancouver, it'll be Lee Mayberry starting at point guard, along with Anthony Peeler, the shooting guard. Abdur Rahim will be the forward, along with George Lynch and Brian Reeves in the middle. Brian Winters, who is an assistant in many stops, including Milwaukee and Atlanta, in his second year as head coach, having to struggle through with an expansion team. And Jerry Sloan, a throwback to the hard-nosed days when he played with the Chicago Bulls. We're set to go. Bill Oakes, David Jones, and Tim Donaghy are the officials. And we're set to go, and the tip is controlled by the Vancouver Grizzlies. Lee Mayberry is the point guard, making his 20th start. He is in place of Greg Anthony, who's out with a leg injury. They go right into Big Country Reeves, and Brian Reeves opens the scoring.
Well, there's a ridiculous stat. Anytime that he scores 20 points, they are 3-2. When he scores under 20, they struggle.
Sounds simple to us. But he's been reluctant. And here is Chris Morris. Gets inside, and it's kept alive by the mailman.
That was a beautiful curl move. John got him the ball, but for some reason, Morris was not ready to shoot.
Here is the pick and roll, and Morris finally gets it done. Chris Morris, who last year was an alternate starter at small forward with David Benoit, now exclusively off the bench, but getting his chance tonight with the injury to Brian Russell. Lynch gets it in again to Reeves, and the rebound taken down by Foster.
Well, you can see Reeves loves to come to the painted area. You have to push him to the baseline.
Foster misses from the perimeter. Foster making his fourth start and averaging under 3 a game, and driving to the basket and missing was Peeler. And now we have a foul, our first of the game.
These two teams have played 5 times over the 2 seasons. Utah 5-0. This year they played at Utah. The game was fairly close, 8 points. The thing that you must do when you play a young team like this, for an older ball club that's playing on the road, who played last night in Utah and traveled here, you cannot allow Reeves to get off and Rahim. Double team them and force the other guys to beat you.
So it's going to be one of those trap games that you can be lulled to sleep, and all of a sudden you'll see an expansion team knock you off. It could happen, although Vancouver has lost 7 in a row here on their home floor. That foul was on Karl Malone, his first. Stockton gets it into Morris. Beautiful pass by John Stockton.
Yeah, that's the 3rd time now that they've run that little basic curl, and they're going to have to change up defensively. You cannot continue to follow the guy because Stockton is putting the ball right on the money.
No question what the Grizzlies want to do. They got it into Reeves, who passed it out to Mayberry, who missed from 3-point range. And with the score tied at 4, Hornacek with the ball for the Jazz. Gets it in low to Malone. Now they double it with the big guy Reeves. A deflection and a turnover into the hands of Abdur Rahim. Here is Sharif Abdur Rahim. One-hands it, and it finally comes down into the hands of Chris Morris. Stockton with a bullet pass. Hornacek, that extra pass to Malone, and that was textbook passing by the Jazz.
Well, in the early going, John Stockton is right on the money. He's putting the ball right into the hands of the people. Hornacek had a shot himself. He overpassed there a little bit. Now watch as he comes right off the curl. He's open, but instead he drops it off to Karl. Not
a shooting foul. It was on Anthony Peeler, and so the Jazz took it sideline out of bounds. Tied 4-4 with less than 3 minutes gone by in the opening quarter. Malone is the 3rd leading scorer in the NBA, averaging 25.7 a game. 7 on the shot clock. Grizzlies playing tight defense out there. Hornacek rushes it up, and it bounces through.
He gets a shooter's touch. That was a beautiful release with a great back spin. And if we show you that replay, he shoots the ball on the move.
Peeler for 3, and he's got it downtown for Anthony Peeler, who has taken the most 3-point shots for the Grizzlies, and they lead it now 7-6.
Well, he attempts 5 a game, Dick, and he shoots a very good percentage, 37%.
Peeler, a former Laker, as is George Lynch. They came in together in a trade, and they fronted Malone and got burned. Abdur Rahim decided to front him, and That's usually bad news when you got Malone playing that kind of play.
Well, in the early going, we're seeing a little bit porous defensively at both ends. Oh, there's an offensive foul. You can't do that.
Mayberry, and you know what? Bill Oakes called him on it.
Yeah, I mean, Mayberry's dribbling the ball. Now just watch his left hand as he catches Stockton. Now that's fine right there, but see, as he brings it up, he gets him right on the Adams apple.
Kind of mugged him with the ball. And so with the score 8-7, the Jazz off to a hot start. 4 for 6 shooting before Hornacek missed the layup, and coming out of the pack is Anthony Peeler. Raheem controlling. Under 8.5 to go. Peeler, who's hit 1 3, now hits another. Anthony Peeler coming in as the second leading scorer, averaging 14-7, now with 6 points.
Well, according to Brian Winters today, he feels that Peeler's playing at the top of his game. He's definitely in a good offensive flow. Hornacek has his work cut out tonight, Dick.
Peeler has been the best shooter as of late for Vancouver. Stockton with his first foray from downtown. This is Reeves tips it into the hands of Raheem, and now Mayberry with a looping pass into Abdur-Rahim, and it was deflected out. No foul.
No, that's a good shot block that time by Chris Morris.
And another three-point basket, and red hot is Anthony Peeler, who has hit 3 from downtown to give the Grizzlies an early 5-point lead.
Dick, the tempo is definitely Vancouver tempo here.
Morris misses the lay-in, and Reeves. And Jazz have run the same play every time down,
Dick, and it's open every time, right? It isn't like Vancouver's defending it. It's just that Utah cannot finish.
Lynch finds an opening and is fouled as Stockton came over. Malone was there, but they'll call it on John Stockton. And George Lynch will go to the free throw line. Lynch, a 61% free throw shooter. Lynch and Peeler came over from the Lakers as both teams swapped second-round draft picks, both in 98 and 99.
Well, a major thing for Lynch is that his minutes are up. A year ago, he only averaged 13. This year, 26. So naturally, with that, his points have doubled, his rebounding have doubled, and he's improved his field goal percentage. Mainly confidence. You know you're going to get the minutes every night.
They depend on Lynch for rebounding, although he may be a bit undersized at 6'8" for a power forward. But nonetheless, 15-8 the score in favor of the Grizzlies, and Lynch fouls Malone hard underneath.
Now, Dick, they can get that play anytime they want tonight. Bring Malone down off of an up screen, take him down into the post up and hit him, and Lynch will be behind him. And anytime that a player is behind Malone and he is smaller, you're not going to stop him.
Karl Malone has scored 28 last night in the victory over the Phoenix Suns at Utah, 95-91. In fact, the mailman has scored 28 points in the last 2 games. Hits the free throw, and there you're looking at a very exclusive club of which Karl Malone's a member.
Well, 24,000 points, 10,000 rebounds. Only 5 guys in the history of this game have accomplished that. And you look, when you say Kareem Wilt-Moses in the Big E, I would say he's in fine company. And then you step onto that and you say 8 straight years, first team All-NBA. Not bad.
No, says it all. 2 free throws ends an 8-0 Vancouver run, and it's a 5-point lead for the Grizzlies with 5 minutes elapsed here in the first quarter. Here's Peeler, and Hornacek not giving Peeler much room now, and the ball knocked out of bounds. Last touched by Peeler and the Grizzlies. It'll be Utah ball, but a timeout called by Vancouver. 15-10 in favor of the home-standing Grizzlies.
Story. The operation was successful, except the patient died. Okay.
All right. Well put. They're not finishing it, but very few teams execute as well as the Jazz. As Stockton to Foster. I'll tell you, this is a very, an underrated team to watch as far as precision, the Utah team on offense.
You know what they're like? They're like the old Green Bay Packers with Vince Lombardi. All they do, they have a few amount of plays, but they run them perfectly. They screen and do a good job. Now it comes down to your execution defensively, Dick.
That's their version of the power sweep, you may say, the pick and roll that they've got. Foul has been called on Chris Morris. That is his first foul. And inbounding will be George Lynch. 3-point lead for the Grizzlies. They've been helped along by 3 downtown hoops by Anthony Peeler. Here's Reeves, who shouldn't be taking perimeter shots. but he missed it. And now comes back the Jazz.
Did the fans tell you to say that statement? Okay,
I told it.
I've grown.
Something. They said if Reeves takes an outside shot, really get on him. Here's Peeler, gets it inside. Abdur-Rahim. And Reeves follows with the basket. Brian Reeves now with his second hoop of the game.
Well, Reeves has got to read the defense. If his man is going to leave him to double team Rahim, then you know that you have to get to the front of the rim. Beautiful move by Big Country.
Touch pass from Malone. Foster wasn't ready for it, however. Remember, he's subbing for Greg Ostertag at center, and that was a good pass that didn't connect. Good position inside by Abdur-Rahim. Gets inside, maybe too much under the basket.
Quick move that time by Abdur-Rahim, except for one thing. 3 shirts, dark shirts, had him surrounded. He usually will beat you down on that box with quickness by going behind the rim and coming up on the other side. But you can see that Utah was ready.
So Howard Isley come in, as well as Stephen Howard, who was let go by San Antonio, had been with the Jazz in the past and at camp. Jerry Sloan telling us before the game we never should have let him get out of our sights, but fortunately they've got him back. Howard, who is 6'8", been around a couple of years, in his 3rd year from DePaul. Stockton goes to the bench when Isley comes in, and now Hornacek brings it up. So Isley and Hornacek in the backcourt for Utah, trailing by 5 and losing the ball out of bounds. Now they call a 20-second timeout. 20-second timeout called by Vancouver by George Lynch.
The early play here by Utah, if I'm Jerry Sloan, I'm really upset, because it's what we talked about at the top. There's no energy. They're lackadaisical defensively. They're like a step behind. And Vancouver is getting good looks at the basket. But at their offensive end of the floor, they are being too casual. They can't finish when guys are open, and then people are missing passes right in their hands. And when you're a coach who's out on the road, your team is struggling, you say, well, they're only 1 game behind Seattle and they're only 1 game behind LA, so what's the problem? Well, he knows that they could be winning these games.
Right, and you don't want to get into bad habits.
That's right.
Because then it could start affecting you at home as well. Adam Keefe, who come in the game, he is a rebounder. Of course, without Ostertag, Jerry Sloan has to mix and match with some of the big people coming off the bench. There is Keefe, who had 7 points and 7 rebounds in the earlier meeting against the Grizzlies. And he's a good shooter from the field at 51%.
Well, he's a high-energy guy. And when you have him out at the floor, you can play him at either a small forward position or power forward. And he's extremely active, especially on the offensive boards.
So following the 20-second timeout, the Grizzlies bringing the ball up, leading by 5 points with 5 minutes remaining in the first quarter. And Lawrence Moten, who has not played all that much as of late after playing a good deal in his rookie year. Abdur-Rahim has a block and taken away by Hornacek with a superb defensive play from behind. Drills it to Howard, who lays it in. Great play on both ends by Jeff Hornacek.
Well, Howard in his 2 stays, Dick, with Utah has really done an excellent job. The last 2 years he has played over in Europe, but they like what he gives them. He can come in. He's a very strong young man.
Peeler pulls up from the baseline and hits. That is a 2-point basket, but Peeler, red hot from the perimeter, now has 11 points, and we still have 4 minutes plus remaining in the first quarter. 19-14 in favor of the Grizzlies, who have not won since January 8th when they beat Golden State on the road. This team has lost 7 straight, as we said, on their home court. Hornacek with a runner, tipped up and in by Howard.
You love to see your bench people come in and give you the contribution, especially on the offensive boards.
Moten very nearly had a pass inside knocked away by Hornacek, who's a pest as far as Moten's concerned.
Well, right now, Vancouver out there without a true point guard on the floor.
Ball knocked away, and it was Howard who knocked it away to Isley.
Nice.
And a great pass inside. Malone knocked it over to Keefe, but Abdur-Rahim got a piece of it. I tell you, the passing has been exceptional by the Jazz, who have just not been able to finish. That was a good defensive play inside.
Now keep an eye on Malone. Malone sacrifices, gives it up, and here comes the block from the rear. Beautiful.
So Abdur-Rahim doing the job defensively, offensively struggling at 0 for 5 from the field in the early going. Under 3.5 minutes to go in the first quarter. Reeves short with the turnaround.
Well, that they must do. They must make Big Country, when he's on the left side box, turn to the outside, turn to the baseline. Do not allow him to get into the lane.
Isley trying to get it into Malone, but Lynch was there. And it'll be a Vancouver foul. And it'll be on George Lynch, his second.
Well, George is giving up size and upper body strength with Karl Malone. You're asking a guy who is really fitted better to play against small forwards. But in their makeup here, you cannot have Abdur Rahim play Malone, or he'd be in foul trouble.
Roy Rogers, a rookie from Alabama, who will be appearing at Cleveland in the Schick rookie game, along with Sharif Abdur-Rahim, has come in. Rogers, like many of the Grizzlies, not with a lot of beef on them. This is a string beat kind of team. A foul as Abdur-Rahim gets knocked.
Now, we just had a collision. Adam Keefe is really hurting here. He has it in his right thigh. That thigh bruise is one of the toughest things for a basketball player. In that collision, he gets hit right in the thigh.
Abdur-Rahim with the foul, even though he hit the floor, picks up this one. Here is Isley. Howard setting a screen. Isley very nearly lost it out of bounds. Malone has scored 4. Stockton did not score. He's been on the bench a while. Jerry Sloan likes to rest his older players now and again early on. Trying to forcing the pass. Isley got it back. 2 on the shot clock. Misses a 3, and Reeves clears it. That was not a good offensive sequence for Utah.
Now, right tonight, we're just seeing the Utah Jazz at their worst. The execution, you can see people opening up, but either the catches are being made or the pass is not on the money.
Peeler ducks in and misses the shot. It goes over the top, so it'll be Utah's ball, and a timeout called by the Jazz with 2:22 remaining in the opening quarter. Vancouver by 3.
Looking for a 9th straight win. Back to Vancouver and Dick and Hubie.
You know, most of the time you get gratuitous suspensions, and that's what Dennis Rodman has had more than not. But this is a real one that not only hurts him and his pocketbook and not playing, but also hurts the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, it's going to force the Chicago Bulls to stand up at that power forward position. I know they say, well, they'll use Kukoc and then they'll use Cappy. But let's go back to a year ago when Dennis Rodman headbutts a referee and only got 10 games. They were fortunate a year ago that he was not suspended for the entire season, and where would they have been at playoff time?
Isley gets the basket and is fouled as well, and this suspension was the longest since Kermit Washington in '77 and that horrible incident with Rudy Tomjanovich.
Well, you know, when you look at the total picture, people are going to say, well, he got fined $25,000. He's going to lose over $1 million. But what a lot of people don't know is that he makes $9 million a year, but a lot of it is in a formula that he must play X amount of games. The key is, what is that magical number? Because then it might also cost him many more millions in the total, the bottom line.
You can say what you want. The Bulls might not have won a title without him or the season of 72 wins, because he really gave them the rebounding they needed.
Dick, look, his 6 offensive rebounds a game is always the key at playoff time, because you're going to score on at least 4 of them. And when you talk about 8 points, you are dealing with major league W's, because he has that energy to get it to you, never mind his defense.
Turnovers at both ends, and on the missed shot by Lawrence Moten. Here come the Utah Jazz in a 19-19 game as we wind down to 1.5 minutes remaining in the first quarter. Here's Malone, who's attempted only 1 shot so far in the game, but he passes off nicely to Jeff Hornacek, and it's 21-19 in favor of Utah.
That's at least his 6th pass tonight. Now, they all didn't end up in assists, but he has been unselfish. He and Stockton just going with the flow of the game.
Reeves puts it up. Basket good and a foul. So Big Country, who will admit that he did not come to camp in condition. He was 300 pounds. Now he's 278. Didn't pick up a ball all summer. Paying the price early on with a couple of nagging injuries. But Reeves looking good in the early going. Has 6 points and 5 rebounds.
Well, it's interesting. Right now, Big Country is averaging 13.3 points. A year ago, the same, 13.3. This year, 7.3 rebounds. Last year, 7.4. So where is the progress? That's what they need here. Yeah, their big 3, Peeler, Rahim, and then also Big Country. They've got to improve every single ball game.
Reeves could not complete the three-point play, and now a foul is called against Vancouver, and that will be against Roy Rogers, his first. And they're playing much faster than it appears on the floor.
Yeah, there you go. Now just keep a good eye right here. That's just a beautiful cut. And when you look at this game tonight from Vancouver's defensive standpoint, any cutter is wide open. He's not wide open. The guy is 2 steps behind the man. It's not even close to contesting the pass. So Utah knows that all they have to do is run curls, any type of back screening, and you're going to get a high percentage shot here.
Karl Malone now with 5 points. He is the leading scorer for the Utah Jazz, who broke the tie and now lead by a 23-21 score with 55.4 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Utah 25-12 on the year, 8-10 on the road, and amongst teams 500 or better, they have the worst road record in the NBA. They're only 200 though, and the ball tipped away by Rogers' last touch by the Jazz. Well, I want to remind you, coming up next week, the NBA on Turner Sports. Tuesday on TNT, the Knicks and the Bulls from Chicago. Knicks will be delighted that Rodman won't be there, I'm sure. Pistons and Kings on TBS Wednesday, and the Knicks and Hornets a week from tonight on TNT. We'll be there in Charlotte for that game. Here's Isley coming down for Utah. Hornacek pulls up for 3. Fighting for it is Howard, who's been impressive as Stephen Howard has been since he's come in.
Yeah, you're right on it, Dick. Howard is keeping the ball alive on the board, and even at the defensive board if he cannot come up with it clean.
4 points and 3 rebounds for Stephen Howard, who has played in just 1 game in a Utah uniform. Differential of about 3 seconds for the game clock and shot clock. Malone is open, and he misses. He has not had a chance to take many shots. Final seconds of this first quarter, pulling up with it and firing at his boat, and he misses. And that is the end of a close first quarter. Anthony Peeler with 3 from downtown and 11 points, the high scorer. And after 1 quarter, the Jazz lead the Grizzlies by a score of 23-21. The second quarter, John Stockton back in the lineup for the Jazz, and Ruben Nembhard, who has played 3 games and was exceptional last night against Phoenix, has come in as well. Blue Edwards has checked in for the Grizzlies. Here is Stephen Howard driving to the basket and draws the foul.
Now, I like that. See, right now they have Reeves, tall, 7 foot, 275 pounds, guarding Howard at about 6'9", quick of foot, and a player who can put the ball on the floor. Now you can see there's a pot. He can take him off the dribble at will. That will force Vancouver to double team, and that will open up people.
Brian Reeves with his first foul, and our first look at Ruben Nembhard, who signed to a second 10-day contract and had 12 points in 19 minutes against the Suns last night from Weber State, and played in Germany as well, and is a welcome addition to this Utah team.
Now, if you had a chance to see San Antonio early in the year, you're probably saying, wasn't Howard playing with San Antonio? You're right. He had 2 10-day contracts, was released, and then he was picked up by Utah.
Blue Edwards with an air ball from the corner, and Stockton pulls up for 3 and rims the hoop. And Blue Edwards, pushing foul called against Stephen Howard as he pushed Edwards trying to get the ball. That'll be the second foul against Howard. Only 1 basket in the last 5:02 for Vancouver, yet they trailed by only 3.
Well, at the end of the first quarter, Vancouver shot 35%, Utah 45.
There you go. Brian Reeves now with 8 points. Stockton controlling, and there is Nembhard. Ruben Nembhard, rookie from Weber State. And there's Karl Malone, who has 8 points, a very quiet 8 points early on in the second quarter.
Dick, anytime Karl Malone wants to score in this game, all he has to do is post up, because there is not one player on Vancouver who can play him from a physical standpoint.
Reeves is fouled. Reeves playing aggressively here in the first half of this game, something that the Grizzlies sorely need. And he'll go to the free throw line. There is Ruben Nembhard, who we talked about, who had a big game last night. A lot of players that the names not familiar to our NBA fans.
Well, he's 6'3" out of Weber State. Did an excellent job for them in the summer league. He was the last player cut in the fall. Jerry Sloan really liked what he brought to the table. He went down to Yakima in the CBA, and now he's back up. Last night, 12 points in the second quarter. They like him. They're playing him as a 2 guard, but his real position is point guard.
Reeves 0 for 3 from the free throw line. This is his opportunity, and the Jazz with the ball lead by 3. With a minute and a half elapsed here in the second quarter. Stockton runs Mayberry into a screen and a lost shoe. John Stockton lost his left sneaker, and a turnaround by Antoine Carr. Keith has it, and he's fouled. So Stockton is going to get the shoe, and we're going to tell you who's all out there now for the Jazz. Antoine Carr, along with Nembhard, Stockton, Howard, and Keith. So Malone on the bench right now, and Lee Mayberry picks up his second personal foul.
Now you're going to see John as he's coming along here right now. The shoe, Reeves steps on that left foot right on the heel. The sneaker comes off. Now we told you when you're playing against the second unit, which is being run by John Stockton, you have to be careful about Adam Keefe on the offensive glass. That is his strong suit.
Keefe with the free throw. Utah 8 of 9 from the free throw line, so they have a 5-point lead, and now Mayberry, the point guard. He's got Moten with him, along with Blue Edwards, Roy Rogers, and Brian Reeves, who's out at the top. Moten, that's one of his weaknesses, has been his long-range shooting, according to Coach Brian Winters. That's why his playing time hasn't been that great.
Well, Dick, the perimeter shooting night in and night out for this team is very weak.
Good pass from Carr to Keith, who missed the shot. Loose ball, Nembhard battling with Mayberry, and it's last touched by Mayberry, so it's Utah's ball, and Keith will inbound.
When you look at the perimeter players for Vancouver, only one player is shooting 44%. The majority of the guys are right in their low 40s and high 30s.
Stockton trying to run Mayberry into a screen as he did before. Nembhard doubled for the moment, leaving Antoine Carr free to penetrate and pass to Stephen Howard, who's doing everything good so far in this game for Utah. 7 points for Howard. And a timeout call by Vancouver.
Excellent timeout right now. The game is getting away from Vancouver. They're relying on the perimeter. They're weak in their perimeter shooting.
7 points. George Lynch and Anthony Peeler have both checked back in for the Grizzlies. Lee Mayberry, the starting point guard. Blue Edwards throws the ball away inside. And here comes John Stockton back. Nearly 3 minutes have gone by here in the second quarter, and Utah seems to have found themselves. Antoine Carr out to Stockton. Edwards all over him.
You see what he did? As soon as he caught it, Dick, he checked the shot clock.
Nembhard for 3. Long rebound into the hands of Anthony Peeler, and a 3-on-2 break for Vancouver. Blue Edwards called for charging. Interesting about Blue Edwards, who's a former member of the Utah Jazz, because he came out in the press today practically asking for Brian Winters' job. He said that Winters had not motivated the team. The team is not practicing well. He said he doesn't like losing. Who does? And he questioned Winters' leadership and morale. Now, Stu Jackson, the president, they were going to talk to him afterwards. Not what you need when you're struggling.
Well, it's interesting. See, when you coach in college, every game is won by the coach. The players only lose the game. But in the NBA, it's reversed. The players win every game, and the coaches lose every game. So when you understand that formula, then you look at this basketball team. They are last in the league in defense, last in the league in differential, last in the league in rebounding, or they are 24th in the league in field goal percentage. And then you say, of course, that's the coach's fault. Okay, of course.
But basically, no one is happy when a team is 7-31. But that is not going to accomplish anything. Nembhard with a reverse layup attempt misses. Keith follows, and he's fouled. Adam Keith will go to the free throw line. Coming up on the Nike halftime report, Vincent Sherrill will be in our Atlanta studios with an update of the Dennis Rodman suspension, as well as scores and highlights of tonight's action. Dennis Rodman, I guess that'll be a topic of conversation in the NBA for quite a while, even though he won't be playing until after the All-Star break at least. Keith misses the free throw. There's Karl Malone, who has had a chance to rest. 8 points, and Jerry Sloan has told us you got to rest Stockton and Malone to get the most mileage as the season goes on.
Well, he sticks with his substitution. He takes Stockton out every night after 6 minutes in the first quarter, puts them in with the second unit for the entire second quarter, and then he gives Karl Malone a break. They have 4 players with over 11 years of experience, and they're 4 of their key guys.
Anthony Peeler, who started the game hitting 3 from downtown, finds the shooting range again. He's got 13 and a 6-point lead for the Utah Jazz. Jazz started 17-2 this year and established a franchise record 15 straight wins before they cooled off on the road, losing 8 in a row at one point. Peeler gets his hands on it and turns it over. Here's Blue Edwards, guarded, picked up by Carr. Mayberry trying to penetrate, misses the scoop, and now Lynch. Well, Roy Rogers missed the follow.
Now that was an easy shot because he just elevated early. All he needed was one more bounce. He had a layup.
Keith going in, and Rogers got a piece of that one. Roy Rogers, who has more block shots this year than anyone has had in the previous season for the Grizzlies, and then lost it out of bounds.
Well, you love Rogers' game because he understands he's limited. He's a rebounder and a shot blocker. Watch him come and get this. Now, he averages 2 shot blocks a game, and he is 16th in the league. And I'm happy for him because he was rewarded by making the Western all-rookie game player. And, you know, the young man is a very bright young man. He has his master's degree in business at the University of Alabama.
On the 2-on-1 turnover, Blue Edwards is fouled and takes a while to get up from the floor. Adam Keith with his 3rd personal foul.
Now, this second unit, they come at you. They're not going to allow you to get an easy layup, whether it's Antoine Carr, Chris Morris when he plays with this unit, or Adam Keefe. They go at you and hat you.
Blue Edwards, who in the loss earlier in the year to the Jazz, 104-96, November the 15th at Salt Lake City, led the Jazz with 23 points. Chris Morris, who started the game, was Brian Russell out with a leg injury. So Morris, who started, back in there now. There's some pressure.
Well, it's the first time that we've seen them come down the floor. It's strictly man-to-man, no trapping. Main thing here, they're just trying to run seconds off the clock. We're inside of 12 seconds.
Vancouver trailing by 4, 31-27 to these Utah Jazz. Antoine Carr posting up Rogers. Not good spacing out there. Malone hits the shot.
Yeah, but it's kind of nice when you got an old guy like that 11 years of career, you put down 26 points and you put down 11 rebounds. And it's interesting. That's what he's averaging this year.
Do it every season. It'll still be Vancouver's ball with 6:22 remaining. Interesting about the Grizzlies, Reeves and Peeler have all their baskets. All of Vancouver's baskets have come from that guy, Big Country Reeves, and Anthony Peeler. 21 points on 9 for 15. The rest of the team 0 for 10 from the field.
As poorly as they're playing right now, they're still in this ball game.
Peeler has it deflected away. Stockton's got it.
Nice.
Flips to Morris, and he slams it through. And it's 35-27 now in favor of Utah, matching their biggest lead of the game.
Well, Chris Morris, a great talent out of Auburn, picked by New Jersey. You go back over his career, he's always averaged 14 points, gets you 7 rebounds, but he has been up and down here at Utah.
Lynch has Peeler, and Nembhard not giving him a chance to explode for another 3. Here is Blue Edwards, though, and Edwards misses from the perimeter. Deflection. Lynch fighting with it with Antoine Carr, and Bill Oakes said it was last touched by Lynch of Vancouver.
Brian's he can't believe that. Either can George Lynch, who was right on top of the play. Now keep an eye on this now as it's running there. You can see it was off. Well, I tell you what, I think Billy Oakes made a pretty good call.
Billy Oakes, who played in the backcourt with Matt Gukas at St. Joseph's in his college days under Jack Ramsey.
Ooh, you brought them all up. The donations will be in the mail on Monday.
About 9 seconds. Karl Malone with a jumper now with 12 points. He leads Utah. Peeler with 13 tops Vancouver.
And who else played in the backcourt on that team? A little guy that's a little feisty down there coaching Washington.
Jimmy Lance.
Jimmy Lance. No, he didn't. He wasn't on that team.
Came later.
Came later. Oh, are you killing me? You're
but
killing me.
You're allowed to miss there. Don't miss those telestrators. That's all I got to tell you. Morris misses, and it's saved by Karl Malone with under 5 minutes remaining in the first half.
That's when Dr. Jack really had it going at St. Joe.
That was a powerful team.
Yep.
Stockton from Malone. How many times have they done that act before? And that is John Stockton's first basket of the game, and a timeout call as Utah has opened up a 12-point lead.
You always teach players, when guys cut, use your forearm in their chest, slow them down. That will be open as this game moves on.
Abdul Rahim gets his first points of the game and is fouled and will go to the line. Abdul Rahim is in the middle of Ramadan, which is the observance that the Muslims, where you fast for an entire month, no food or liquids during the daylight hours. Now, Abdul Rahim is 6'9", 230 pounds, and Brian Winner says he wonders about his strength during Ramadan, which is this 30-day period.
Yeah, well, he's allowed to eat before sun up, and that's what he does. He gets up and he eats early, and then once sun goes down, and he made a good point, because you're on the western side of the country, 3-hour time limit, it gets dark earlier here, and he's able to eat before the ball game.
And that's what we do. Stockton misses from outside and is taken down by Lynch. 39-30, the Grizzlies, who've been struggling, down by 9 points with 4 minutes remaining in the first half. Anthony Peeler. Nemhard fighting for the loose ball, and it's last touched by Vancouver. Nemhard is into the game along with Chris Morris, Karl Malone, John Stockton, and Antoine Carr. Nemhard has gone out of the game, replaced by Jeff Hornacek. Stockton guarded by Peeler. They run him into a screen. Malone can't get it to Stockton. Good anticipation by Lynch on the pass. Malone misses, and the rebound by Abdur Rahim. Or Rahim, I should say. Blue Edwards picked up quickly. Good pass into Sharif. Lynch has it rejected by Antoine Carr. Here comes Stockton. No-look pass into Morris. Gets it out to Carr, who nails it. 2-point basket by Antoine Carr, his first point.
Well, the difference between the two teams. One team, the guys with the dark uniforms, Utah, they have an outside game. They have an inside game. They can penetrate off the dribble. At this end of the floor right now, the only guy with any type of an inside game tonight is Reeves, and the rest of the team is struggling. And outside, Peeler is the only guy who can make an open jump shot.
Peeler gets it into Abdur Rahim, who was fouled. You saw the shooting so far, and Utah getting a lot more chances than Vancouver thus far. Foul is on Antoine Carr, his first. And here is Sharif Abdur Rahim, who's averaging 16.2, has 3 points in the game. He was the third pick out of the University of California and had a franchise record 37 against Sacramento last Saturday.
Well, you can see he's doing it in regards to the rest of the rookies. The only player scoring more is Iverson, but then again, Iverson is getting 19 shots a game, where here Abdur Rahim is only getting 13 a game.
And the co-rookie of the month, along with Kerry Kittles of the Nets in the month of December. The lead is 10 for the Jazz. Stockton driving in unmolested, changes hands. John Stockton has only 4 points so far, but 9 different Jazz players have scored in this game.
See, that was just a very heady point guard, lulling you to sleep with his slow dribble, and as soon as you relax defensively, he takes you off the dribble.
Reeves to Abdur Rahim, who lays it in. That looks like the play out of the Utah Jazz playbook.
Well, it's nice to see, because they can count on Reeves being double-teamed. Now it's up to Reeves to be able to hit the cutters.
The lead is 10 as we wind down to 2 minutes to go in the first half. Malone from Stockton, and he beat George Lynch to the hoop. Tough matchup for Lynch against Malone.
Dick, a good point here to bring out to the fan is the college players coming out. They don't get as double teamed by size of people at the college level like you do at the NBA. You're getting double teamed usually by 2 guys who are right around the 7 foot, and then not only that, but they're also wide bodies. So what is one of the weaknesses? Passing out of double teams for young players coming in. It's something that the coaching staffs have to work with day in and day out.
Because they never do it in college, never have to do it there.
Well, either that or they get double teamed, Dick, and they see over the double team.
Peeler misses from the baseline and out of bounds. Last touch by Vancouver. Lee Mayberry has checked into the game for the Grizzlies, who are down by 12. This is the biggest lead Utah has had. They've had 12 on several occasions.
Well, it's frustrating. It's frustrating coaching expansion, Dick. You're sitting here right now with 1 minute and 20 seconds to go, and you have 33 points on the board.
Grizzlies have never scored 100 against the Jazz, and they're not likely to get there tonight. Carr is fouled as the pass goes in, and that is against Brian Reeves, his second. Brian Winters, who learned under Frank McGuire at University of South Carolina, in his second year as head coach, and going through the pains of being an expansion coach and having a 7-31 record. Only one game worse than they were a year ago, because we're expecting to be better in the second year. That doesn't always work out. There's our lineup for next week. Knicks Bulls Tuesday on TNT. Pistons and Kings from Sacramento Wednesday on TBS. And then the Knicks again against the Hornets Friday from Charlotte on TNT. Carr with one free throw. And it's 46-33. Jazz with their biggest lead as we get down to a minute to go. Mayberry at the point. Minute now remaining in the first half. Abdur-Rahim with a great spinning move to the basket. That was one-on-one all the way.
No, that was tough. That was very tough. But if you're really watching this game, you're seeing something jump off the screen. Outside of Abdur-Rahim, very few of these people out here can beat their man off the dribble, and that is very evident. And that's something in the NBA that you must have with the clock going down.
And 32 seconds to go, and George Lynch got stepped on, and he is limping coming up. They're going to play at 15 seconds on the shot clock, and Lynch is really hurting, and he's down.
Yeah, it's his right ankle.
And here's Lee Mayberry to Peeler. Peeler firing away for three. He was hot early from outside, but has drawn cold. And Utah now playing for the final shot.
Plenty of time here.
Abdur-Rahim scored the last 8 points for Vancouver, but now Utah with Malone. Is that the playbook or what?
Yeah, that's right. That fumble ball into an assist for Antoine Carr.
And that is the end of the first half. Karl Malone had 6 in the first quarter, added 10 more in the second on 6 for 8 shooting. And after one half here in Vancouver, the Grizzlies lead or trail the Utah Jazz 48-35. Utah in front.
14-point scorer for you. But he is also an excellent penetrator and passer, and then a terrific defensive point guard.
Former New York Knick, and he'll be on the injured list. So underway here in the second half. Malone and Stockton with Hornacek, Greg Foster, and Chris Morris. Foster started, did not get to play that many minutes. Number subbing for Ostertag. Turnover, errant pass, and Stockton trying to take a charge, but called for the block.
John was there, but he takes a move and catches the offensive player with the left shoulder.
There's Greg Anthony in street clothes now. He'll be out at least 5 games. So Mayberry with Abdur-Rahim, George Lynch, Reeves, and Peeler, who led with 13 points for Vancouver. Rahim, basket counts and a foul. How about
offensive foul by Billy Oakes. Now Rahim he's definitely upset here. All right, because Billy Oakes is saying he clears them away with his arm. Now keep an eye on this here. Now once he comes down inside, now watch right there. Oh, I don't know. Yeah,
that's a tough call to make.
No, that's a college call. Okay, I'm serious. That might have been called in college.
Stockton gets it into Karl Malone, who's guarded by Reeves. Malone tries to draw the foul and does. And Big Country now picks up his 3rd personal foul. Earlier we talked about Billy Oakes and Gukas playing at St. Joe's, and I want to correct it. I said Linus played after Oakes and Gukas. He played before, in case we start to get.
Oh, are you murdering me tonight? Now you're up 2-0. You're ahead 2-0.
No, I said Linus played after. I don't want to go on record as being wrong that way. Here's Malone on the free throw line and hits the first Malone, 73% free throw shooter, now with 17 points and 5 for 5 from the stripe.
Now you talk about a guy who worked at his game. When he came in, he shot 48% his first year on the foul line. It went from 48 into the 50s, into the 60s, into the 70s, and then he got it up there in like the last 5 years, 77, 78%.
Remember last year in the playoffs, really struggled from the line in Seattle, where he had his problems. But he's a pretty decent free throw shooter. Here is Lynch, has it knocked away by Chris Morris. And now the Jazz with a 49-35 lead. Now make it 51-35 on Morris's shot.
Well, the one thing you cannot do when you play the Jazz is fall asleep in transition. Stockton will always get the ball to anyone who is running the lane. That's why when Russell and Morris get out and run, the Jazz are at the top.
Reeves with a turnaround in the lane. Reeves now in double figures with 10.
Once again, Dick, you let him get in the lane, he's very dangerous.
Hornacek trying to get it into Malone, and now Stockton looking that way. Cut off nicely by Mayberry. Hornacek trying to split the defense. Bounces it into Malone, and it was that easy for the Jazz.
See, what we're getting here is Vancouver gives you the trap, Dick, but the third guy rotating is never on time.
Reeves turnaround, and out of the pack comes Chris Morris.
Nice.
Morris.
Oh, pretty.
Malone.
Pretty.
Now 8 of 10 from the field for Karl Malone and 21 points.
Utah Jazz, #1 in shooting in the league, #1 in assists, and you're seeing it tonight, the extra pass.
An 18-point Utah lead with 2.5 minutes gone by here in the third quarter. Mayberry and Reeves trying to tip it in, and here come the Jazz again. Utah turning on the Jets here in the third quarter. Stockton hits the jumpers, and it's 57-37, and Brian Winters wants a timeout. A 20-point lead for the Utah Jazz.
Anytime you miss a layup in this league, the other team usually scores within 4 seconds. We just saw it.
Utah lead, and Hubie made a good point when we went out to commercial about missing layups and how you can be burned at the other end.
Well, then this is into Reeves, a cut down. Reeves gets double teamed, gets it back to you. See, you've got to score here right now. Now, you just cannot be throwing up, you say, ooh, the degree of difficulty there was great. Because what happens in this league, there is a letdown defensively for whatever reason it is. Just watch it when you watch NBA games. The rebound comes off, they make a long pass, you go down, and they score. It's the darndest thing. Layup within 4 seconds.
Off the screen is Peeler. Mayberry leaves it open for Abdul Rahim, who's double teamed in the corner. Makes the pass to Lynch, strikes first, and Hornacek battling for the loose ball along with Malone. And the basket put in by Lynch. That was a tough basket for Vancouver. They haven't come easy tonight.
No, I enjoyed it. He really stayed with that one. Now think about what we talked about early. He's one of the 5 guys. That's their first field goal. Vancouver rotating 8 players.
Malone with a jumper and misses. And here comes Vancouver. The Jazz had scored on their first 5 possessions of this quarter before they did not connect there. And Lynch coming right back. Loose ball, Reeves, and here comes Hornacek. Lead pass, Malone out of bounds, and it's last touched by the mailman. And it'll be Grizzlies ball.
Jerry Sloan up and yelling at the referees. Karl Malone sending daggers. He thought he was bumped while he was up in the air that time.
57-39, Utah in front. Mayberry misses perimeter, and a loose ball foul called against Vancouver.
Yeah, Reeves over the back. We're going to show you this pass. Watch Hornacek. He sees Malone going. Now keep it right up to the top. Now there is right there with the leg. That's what they were looking for. The leg took Karl Malone, his legs right out from him. That's where they wanted the foul.
Meanwhile, Reeves with his 4th foul. Stockton tries to get the pass in and throws it away.
Yeah, John left his feet. And anytime you leave your feet to pass, that's a bad sign. You leave your feet in this league to shoot first, pass second.
Mayberry open for 3. And Brian Winters telling us that many times when the Grizzlies do execute, they miss open shots.
Oh, Dick, it's so hard to play at the NBA level to win with a perimeter. And then here tonight, we're seeing frustration with the young players of Vancouver. They are not a good catch-and-shoot team with range.
And now let's take a look at tonight's GMC scoreboard, bringing you up to date. Miami over Washington. A little bit of satisfaction for Pat Riley with Juwan Howard. Not with his team, but playing with the Bullets. And in overtime, New Jersey over Philadelphia.
Wow, Philadelphia, I think now they might have lost 18 out of 19 or 19 out of their last 20. Or how about 21 out of their last 22?
It's ugly. Karl Malone, who was fouled, hits the free throw. Roy Rogers coming back in the game for Vancouver. Malone, pretty good numbers tonight on 8 of 11 shooting.
Were we worrying about him getting points in the first quarter when he only had 2 shot attempts?
He said, just wait when he went to the bench. Just you wait. Henry Higgins. 59-39. Utah by 20. 7:20 remaining in the third quarter. Lynch with a line drive jumper. And here's Chris Mars getting a chance to start for the first time this year because of the injury to Brian Russell. Out of bounds. Last touch by Vancouver.
Well, when you look at the Jazz, Russell and Ostertag out of the starting lineup. Jamie Watson, you know, one of their good backup players, also out. So they have three contributors here not participating this evening.
There's Russell. And Pete Chilcutt making his first appearance, former Houston Rocket. Morris, and a well-executed out-of-bounds play from Malone to Morris under the basket, 61-39. And the biggest lead of the game now by Utah.
I have never seen this year more cutters to the basket. Wide open, going in for uncontested layups, as we have seen here this evening, and we have not played 3 quarters.
And you got to remember, early on, Utah was getting that play, but missing shots. They may be up by 40 if they had connected early on some of those.
Interesting observation there, Sherlock. I'm telling you. Oh.
Because I do remember the early moments of the game. Though you may be cynical about that. Abdur Rahim tries to force one up and perhaps draw the foul. Nothing doing. Hornacek, stop and go all the way in. The basket by Jeff Hornacek.
That was pretty. The old story of the guard being able to shoot the baby hook once you get down into the painted area.
Jazz outscoring the Grizzlies to the tune of 15-4 here in the third quarter. Anthony Peeler trying to regain the glory of his early moments of this game when he hit 3 from downtown. Can't buy one from the perimeter. 6:10 remaining, third quarter, 63-39 in favor of Utah. Malone to Stockton, pops. And Foster trying to save it. Here comes Mayberry. Leaves it for Abdur Rahim. Malone in his way. And finally, Abdur Rahim with a scathing look at one of the officials gets the basket. He's got 10.
Well, when you look at this, Vancouver can score in transition. Unfortunately, Utah not giving them many opportunities because they're not turning the ball over this quarter, and they're completing this plays and finishing with field goals.
They don't give many teams opportunities to run in transition. Here is a basket and a foul as well. Karl Malone continues to do the job now with 25 points. And will go to the line.
Dick, for about 5 straight years, Karl Malone averaged over 10 foul shot attempts a game. And you know, his game has changed a little bit in the last 2 years. He stands out a little higher now. He looks for the on the screen and roll. He looks for the not the roll but the spot up. So now his foul shot attempts are down just like last year, 8 a game. But when we get to playoff time, 13 to 15 a game.
Abdur Rahim working against Greg Foster. Isley coming in on a foul. Isley checking in for Utah. I guess the big question will always be will the Utah Jazz finally break the mold, get to the NBA Finals, or even better, as long as Malone and Stockton are around? How much longer will they be able to go with it, and can they get there after being worn down as the season goes?
Well, I think it keeps coming back to who you are going to surround them with. Now, when you look at this team, they've been in the Western Conference Final at playoff time, 92, 94, 96, 3 times.
And they got to the 7th game last year.
That's right. So they're on the threshold. Last year, that Seattle series could have gone either way. Now, this year, at the beginning, when you and I did them in December, hey, that bench was hopping. They were playing with great energy. All of a sudden, the dog days of January step in, and they slip off, and they're struggling during the month of January. But you say to yourself, will they regain all this at playoff time?
They usually do. Malone on the pick and roll. You know, it's interesting. Despite losing 8 or 9 on the road, they're in great shape. They're 3.5 behind Houston in the division, and right in there with the other Western powers.
Those 4 teams, that you just blanket them. When we get to the end of the year, Houston, Seattle, LA, and Utah, it's going to come down to home court advantage, who's injured, and which team is hot at that time. Any one of the 4 can come out of the West.
Anthony Peeler with that last basket for the Grizzlies. Malone from Hornacek this time. And the mailman with 30 points in the game. He had 28 last night against Phoenix and 28 in the previous game. So he is on a scoring tear. Came in as the 3rd leading scorer in this league. Hornacek has it rejected by Roy Rogers out of bounds. That's the 3rd block by the rookie from Alabama.
Now, you know, the interesting thing here, Dick, when you watch Utah, they're just pretty. If you're a coach, you're coaching at any level. It's a beautiful block by Rogers. We told you he gets 2 a game. That is the 2nd block in this game. And then you say, what's so nice about Utah? The unselfishness, the screening, opening guys up. There it is. Oh, hello, nice. You know, I mean, it's beautiful.
And interchangeable parts with the passer Malone or the receiver Malone. This time he fed it off to Chris Morris, who will go to the line to shoot 2. And that was the 3rd foul on Abdur Rahim.
A year ago, they were 1st in the league in shooting, 1st in assists. This year, 1st in the league in shooting, 1st in the league in assists. It's just nice to watch them play. They're totally unselfish. They enjoy one another's company. And I think at playoff time this year, they're going to be a very exciting club.
Hubie, what other team in the NBA, if any, come close to them as far as their philosophy and style?
Well, I know. I think you have to put Chicago in there. But with the thing that Chicago has over Utah is that once the game clock gets down to 6, they have 2 guys, not 1 guy. They have the guy and then another guy. When you say Pippen and Jordan, they invariably beat their man off the dribble, and then they get fouled. So they have the ability to not only score, but also create.
Here is Roy Rogers, and he is fouled. And right now we're going to send it for bonus. Vancouver, here is tonight's McDonald's game reset. The Jazz with a 30-point lead. Karl Malone with 30 points, 14 coming in here in the 3rd quarter. Jazz on a 29-12 run and out shooting Vancouver by a wide margin.
Yeah, the defense has been too tough for them. We're going to show you transition by Utah. Utah definitely stepping out. Keep an eye. Hornacek, a long pass to Stephen Howard out in front. Now he puts this one away for his 9th point of the game. Now Howard in that 1st half came in and played strong. 7 points of the 16.
And you'll be remembered to stop by McDonald's and cast your vote for your favorite NBA All-Stars. McDonald's, the official headquarters of All-Star balloting. 2:15 remaining, 3rd quarter. The Utah Jazz looking for their 3rd in a row and way ahead of the Vancouver Grizzlies. And it's Utah's ball with 14 on the shot clock.
Utah is playing tomorrow night at Portland. So you can see Jerry Sloan is going to go with a 2nd unit for longer minutes here and just keep one of the starters out there. This time it's Hornacek in the 2nd half.
Peeler with the ball for Vancouver. Chilcutt along with Lawrence Moten. And Moten. This is Chilcutt with the offensive rebound and a foul. Grizzlies lost to Detroit 103-77 on Wednesday, Huey. And this will be 2 blowout losses in a row at home, and unsettling to a crowd that has been quiet from the start tonight.
Yes, they have. They've been sitting here waiting to be entertained, and unfortunately, outside of possibly the first 8 minutes of this game, you know, they've kind of just become silent. The boos are starting to come about because they'd like to see some fast breaking. Fast breaking can only happen if you get out and you play some defense and you force turnovers and you also hold the other team to 1 shot attempt.
Vancouver only 2 points off the fast break tonight. Trailing 77-47 after Chilcutt came up empty. Pass to Isley, and it is last touched by Vancouver. Brian Reeves will come back in. Big Country from Gaines, Oklahoma, has come in replacing Roy Rogers.
When you're coaching a young team, especially a team this young, 12 guys on this team with less than 5 years experience, what you're asking them to do now is, look, just don't give up. Let's run our stuff. Please go to the basket hard, and let's try to make some things happen.
Isley, this is from outside, and a loose ball foul is the call against Keith. For Keith, that's his 4th foul. Again, here's the lineup coming up next week. A big one, the Knicks and the Bulls next Tuesday on TNT. On Wednesday, the Detroit Pistons on the road at Sacramento. They're going to have to go on the road and play a bunch now. And Friday we'll be at Charlotte for the Knicks against the Hornets on TNT. All games starting at 8 o'clock. Wednesday's game, of course, on TBS.
Right now, Cleveland and Milwaukee have to make up 6 games, I'm pretty sure, on the road. And Detroit must make up 7 games on the road. So, you know, we know that the West only has 5 teams, Dick, over 500. So there are a lot of weak ball clubs out here, and you can get some W's.
Saw the final of our bonus coverage. Houston winning by 10 over Dallas. And there is Stephen Howard, who now has 11 points in the game. Stephen Howard, a very big addition to this Utah club off the bench.
Well, he has a game, Dick. You know, I mean, he's strong. He's a good penetrator. He takes you off the dribble, goes strong to the hole, and he can play with his back to the basket.
Reeves kept it alive, and now Moak controls with 45 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter. Lou Edwards had good passing, good ball movement, the best of the night for Vancouver. But Edwards misses outside, and Carr getting position, blocking out, gets the rebound.
The inside guys can take the double teams, find the free people, but if you cannot make that 17 to 21 foot jump shot, you're in deep trouble.
And Carr just did exactly that. He made that jumper, and it's 81-48. And the final seconds of the 3rd quarter. Utah already with 81 points. Peeler misses from outside. Keith the rebound, and here comes Howard Isley. Stockton and Malone on the bench. They're going to get a good rest. As Hubie mentioned, they've got a tough game against the Blazers tomorrow night. Behind the back pass, Keith Isley for 3 at the buzzer, misses, and that'll do it for 3. And Karl Malone, 30 points in the game, and a big 3rd quarter with 14 points. And after 3, it's the Jazz 81, the Grizzlies 48. Here in Vancouver, Utah outscoring Vancouver 33-13 in the 3rd quarter to have a gigantic 81-48 lead. And the leading man tonight has been Karl Malone with 30 points. This is the 7th time this year he's gone over 30.
Yeah, this is just brute strength. And we said in the 1st quarter, you know, he's just too strong for any of the front court players. He's had a totally unselfish night, and he's just used his brute strength any time that he has put the ball down on the floor. The big fella, an easy night. And he's done it all. And I like the unselfishness in the 1st quarter because he didn't even try. He only took 2 shot attempts in that 1st quarter. At the end of 3, Utah shooting 55, Vancouver 33. They've compounded it with 15 turnovers.
Both getting it into Reeves. Reeves guarded by Carr. Back into the Big Country turnaround from the baseline. And Vancouver just missing too many shots. Isley coming back. With Keith. He's got Carr in the post with Ruben Nebhard and Howard. Out of bounds, and it'll be Vancouver's ball. Well, the big men for Vancouver, Abdur-Rahim, Reeves, and Peeler, have all but one of the Grizzlies' baskets, field goals tonight.
And they've rotated 9 guys in this game. And it's just that's an incredible stat, Dick, that these other guys only have 1 field goal.
And a tip-in, Chilcutt, and Ruby Reeves gets credit for the basket. He's got 13 points.
I think an interesting stat, when Vancouver scores over 90 points, they're 7-10. When they don't score 90 points, they're 0-21, and tonight they will be 0-22. I mean, that's frightening when you think about it.
Keith is fouled. Let's talk about expansion teams and how they grow. And Vancouver last year won 15 games and lost 67. As we mentioned, only a game below what they were a year ago after 38 games. There are some facts about the Grizzlies. How do you build a team?
Well, you have to build, first of all, with defensive rebounding. You have to get front court people who can take care of the defensive boards. The second thing is everybody can play defense night in and night out. So it has to come at the defensive end of the floor. Then when you have young teams, you must get more shots than the opposition. The only way you can do that is by forcing turnovers. Whether you press, trap, whatever, show different defenses. Now you say, well, why do you need more shots? Because you're young, you're playing with a lot of inexperienced guys. They're going to have a bad shooting percentage, so they need more shots.
20-second timeout by Utah while we have a break. Toronto's won 12 games. Is Toronto that much farther ahead than Vancouver? Can you tell yet?
Well, the style of play. You see, you say, well, that's only 5 more wins than Vancouver, but it is 5. And when you talk expansion, that's a lot. Now, when you think of how is Toronto doing this? Toronto presses full quarter court, 3/4 court, half court, and then they double team you from the top of the circle down. So that's their style of play. This style of play is we're going to play from the top of the circle down. It's very frustrating, Dick, because as you know, you have to be able to bring in good, strong free agents. You hope that the draft is going to get you a good player, but we all know that these poor teams, Toronto and Vancouver, cannot get the first pick in the draft for 5 consecutive years.
Yeah, I think that Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars would not have gotten as far as they
did. Right.
Got a ground rule, but that's the world of expansion as it is in the NBA. Loose ball foul was called on Antoine Carr. Reeves working against Isley. Now Howard picks him up. Blue Edwards. Mayberry fires it up and misses. And Mayberry, the former Milwaukee Buck, now will be the point guard with Greg Anthony going on the injured list. Howard Isley hits the shot, 83-50 with 9.5 to go in the fourth.
Coaching an expansion team is extremely difficult because it's frustrating for the players, because the majority of them have not lost this many games at the college level. Then they get in here and all of a sudden they lose 60 games in 1 year. It's so disheartening for a young bunch of players. Well, then the pressure on the coaching staff is incredible to get them to play strong every single night. And then you say, well, who are your go-to guys? You say, wait a second. There are no go-to guys on the majority of expansion teams. So this hurts you in the last 6 minutes of games. And then the referees very seldom give you any respect when you're on the road, and it's difficult to win road games.
Last basket was by Keith. And here is Mayberry dishing off to Blue Edwards, who hits the jump shot. I guess with David Stoudemire, I guess Toronto really caught lightning in a bottle with him last year.
He played well. Their style of play was good. They had good guys coming off the bench who could shoot. Now, you go back to that team that they had last year. They had a good perimeter game. You had guys like Tracy Murray coming off and scoring in the 20s for you many nights off the bench. Well, we know tonight, as we looked at all the shooting percentages, that is not happening here. We brought that point out. They just do not have catch and shoot guys with range.
Antoine Carr with a turnaround in the lane, and a new face in the lineup for Vancouver. Chris Robinson, a rookie from Western Kentucky, and a guy that you have seen and like.
Oh, yeah. In the Chicago camp last year, there were 65 guys there. He performed well. They drafted him on the 2nd round, the 51st pick. He's a very nice player. He's an offensive-minded guy. And when he comes in, he usually does a nice job. But he's learning his position. And unfortunately for him, they have a number of players who can play the two-guard position.
So there is Robinson, who averaging 4.2 points a game. 87-52. Here is Reeves left open for an outside pump, and he hits. Ryan Reeves is playing with 5 fouls, has 15 points in the game. Reeves coming in averaging 13 a game. 7 of 12 from the field is Big Country, who is out of Oklahoma State, and his team went to the Final Four in the NCAA championship under Eddie Sutton. Eddie Sutton's taken a couple of teams to the promised land a little bit, hasn't he? That was Carr again. And it's 89-54. Well, we got more bonus coverage, so don't go away. Cleveland is playing Seattle in a battle of tough defensive teams. And right now, let's go. And we're back here in Vancouver, where Adam Keefe, we have seen, while we were away, some nifty ball movement by the Utah Jazz as they now reach the century mark and are up 100-62.
You know, you were talking before, Dick, what's the difference between Toronto and Vancouver? And you think of the front line at Toronto with players like Wright, Popeye Jones, Camby, Tabak, Rogers. You're talking about guys who can play with their back to the basket and also have size and strength. They don't have that here. They don't have that type of talent up front.
More finesse than physical strength, and that includes Rogers and Abdul Rahim. Here is Mayberry for 3. And keep the rebound. Eric Mobley has come into the game, so both teams emptying their bench. Mayberry knocks it away from Isley. Lawrence Mobley with a fake. Wow. And hitting the ground is Keith.
We look at Keith
Claiming it at the before the shot, and that's critical in the game when you're down by 40.
Well, yeah, come on. I mean, first of all, I was concerned that Keith might have really gotten hurt. I mean, he was up there pretty high when he came down and landed, got bumped off. But I couldn't believe that he wanted it to be a foul, a non-shooting foul.
Well, they're only up by 40.
The double team happens. We have not seen, you and I, during the course of the season, so many layups just off of a straight cut to the basket.
Jazz playing without Greg Ostertag and Brian Russell out with injury tonight. I want to say something about the crowd. Only now, with 2 minutes to go in the game, have they started to make their way to the exits. They have sat through this blowout. And as you pointed out, during the timeouts, really get enthused with whatever activity comes on the floor.
Yeah, well, I thought Brian Winters made a very nice point about the crowd. He said the people have been wonderful to the team in spite of the losing and in spite of the fact that we're getting hammered many nights. But you have to look at this team also and be a little fair in regards to the fact that you need Greg Anthony. He's a critical player on this team, and you need everyone to be healthy so that you can have a contribution by key people, especially like a guy like Blue Edwards, who's playing with a bad knee. And then also you have Edwards out of Florida State, who has not played at all this year, out with an injury.
Stephen Howard with 15 points, playing a lot tonight. Mayberry. And it's Mayberry with the layup. Lee Mayberry. And it's 104-66. Mayberry's first basket of the game, 1 for 10 from the field. 38-point lead. This is not the biggest setback that the Grizzlies have suffered. They lost by 47 here at the General Motors place to Indiana on December the 4th. Adam Keefe has had a good game off the bench now with 9 points. Everyone who played scored for the Jazz, led by Malone with 30 points. Howard with the 15. Carr with 13, Barnes with 11, John Stockton only 6 tonight, and it's a luxury to be able to rest him with the Blazers coming up tomorrow night, or Sunday, that is. Karl Malone is going to be our butt player of the game, and those numbers speak for themselves. Karl Malone with 30 points for the 7th time this year. After getting 28 in each of the last 2, comes in with 30 tonight. That was Roy Rogers for the Grizzlies, and it's 106-68. Under a minute to go in this game. Vancouver will drop to 7-32, and will suffer their 8th straight setback on their home floor. 8 on the shot clock. Isley. Bench getting a lot of work tonight. Howard didn't really have control, has it rejected by Rogers.